This is
All
Dr.
right.
Chris's radio horror program here at 91.3 FM, WCW in Worcester. If you're not catching this live recorded interview playing, then hopefully you're catching it on the Radio Horror YouTube channel within a week or so. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year for anybody who's listening to this around the time of the holidays. Tonight on the show with us, a very special guest from the 1980s film The Last Starfighter, as well as other films like Halloween 2 and an amazing other body of work that he's been involved in. We have actor Lance Guest on the show with us. Thank you for coming on the show with us, Lance.
Hello, Chris. Good to be here.
How has your year been in quarantine?
Well, it's getting on me. You know, I was kind of one of the last people to have it really get to me. And now it's getting to me. I've been able to have a very positive attitude for these 9 months, and now it's getting to me.
That's well, I mean, at least it's getting to you at the very end, and we have hopeful good things coming next year.
Oh, yes. I hope so.
Were you surprised that they wanted to do such a huge another release for The Last Starfighter on Blu-ray? Because there was one for the 25th anniversary, right?
Yeah, I think that was back in 2008, maybe. Is that possible?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because I think I remember buying it at a time there were still rows upon rows of DVDs and Blu-rays at every store.
Yeah. No, that was. I remember that one because I was in Chicago, and when there was a bit in there where I did some, like an interview that they interspersed with a lot of the special feature, whatever, the way they do.
Yeah, like you hosted it was like a segment they would cut back to you like you were hosting the behind the scenes of The Last Starfighter, and I think it ends with you like looking up to the stars, and it was very dramatic.
Oh, well, that might have been the first one. There was a DVD release in like 99 or 98, I think.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
And then that was when the Crossing the Frontier, and that's when that documentary that I learned a lot from. But then there was a Blu-ray release, I think, in 2008, and they just came to Chicago. I was doing a play in Chicago, and they were like they came and asked me questions, and I tried to supply them with some answers.
I absolutely loved the commentary that you did with your son, Jackson. That was so much fun to listen to because there was so much in it that I didn't know about, and there was so much about you that maybe a lot of people didn't know about. Like they didn't know about maybe you said it was your father, your grandfather was a fighter pilot.
No, my father was during World War II. He trained as a Navy pilot. He did like carrier landings and stuff like that, wow. And he was like slated to go to the Pacific, and like a week or two before he was to be shipped out, the war ended. So he basically spent the whole of the war training. And so lucky for me, he didn't have to go. But he was, he's kept his hours up and stuff, and he was in the reserve for like 20 years, and he flew like every weekend, and but yeah, he was a trained fighter pilot, which is interesting because Last Starfighter was basically Alex is basically a gunner on like on a bomber or something. He's kind of like being a fighter pilot, but make believe.
Did you ever think about? I'm sure your dad must have had like stories to have told you about his time in the, in the service. Have you ever thought about maybe taking one of those stories and like in honor of your father and turning it into some type of production?
No, I don't. They weren't enough. I mean, he did have a lot of great stories, but they were, sort of, how you say, what's that word? Episodic. They were apocryphal. They were sort of, they just sort of were little stories by themselves. They didn't really connect to a larger sort of theme, other than he found out that the first girl that he kissed in, I don't know, 8th grade in St. Louis, Missouri, was living in Hollywood, and he was living in Beverly Hills. They had all moved out, and and it was my mother.
Aw.
And so he went to grade school with my mother in St. Louis. So the guy he was flying with was actually from the neighborhood as well. So the guy he was flying with said, hey, Shirley lives in L.A. You got to look her up. So that came out of his being a pilot, because otherwise he never would have known about it. So he happened to know, his buddy that he was flying with, he happened to know that my mom was around. And he was like, I don't know, 20 years old, 21. So that's kind of a fun story. That's like something, Tom Hanks would be in a movie like that.
No, I got you. One of the things, because I really wanted to get into like what else has this guy done? Because I know him from like 4 things, and the X-Files is one of them. Big fan of the X-Files. I'm doing a big binge watch. I was like, hey, wait a minute, I know that guy.
Oh my god!
And I was like, hey, he did a movie about the bird flu. Maybe he's gonna do a COVID virus movie.
Well, the answer is obvious. Nobody wants to.
Give it a few years. Trust me, next year we're going to have every freaking COVID movie coming out. You know what I mean? There's already a couple TV series that have the COVID protocols in place. There's a TV series about a bunch of retail employees work at like a Walmart. You know what I mean? And they opened up the new season with all the COVID protocols in place or whatever, and the masks and the sanitizing and the jokes about quarantining and stuff like that, and the retail nonsense they have to deal with. And I'm like, they're right on the pulse on this one, but at some point it's going to get tired real quick.
Yeah, because that's the thing, is one of the reason COVID fatigue is beyond the physical and emotional fatigue. It's the having to hear about it all the time fatigue too. It's like,
right.
I mean, it's very important. It's obviously very important. I'm all for people doing the right thing and everything, but just the repetition, or the need for repetition, is really kind of pathetic. But the repetition of what you're supposed to do, and this is it's constantly, people are constantly talking about it all the time. So it just gets it gets kind of it wears on you.
I was talking to David about this, and I thought this was pretty funny. I said that The Last Starfighter is the unknown Halloween movie that no one is aware of sometimes, because you're in Halloween 2. Nick is Michael Myers again, by the way. He's Michael Myers in the new movies. And your co-pilot, Greg, is the crazy old man who wants to murder children to sacrifice them in Halloween 3, which people keep forgetting about because they think it's Louis Gossett Jr. sometimes. And I'm like, no. Mm-hmm. It's the old man from RoboCop.
Oh, my God. That's so funny. Yeah, that's true.
And I'm like, if I did a deep dive into the crew of The Last Starfighter, which I didn't have time to do before this interview, we could probably find other crew members that worked on like Halloween 2, 3, 1, 5, 7, 8, 10, 12.
Well, the thing is that they were all Universal releases. So Last Starfighter, Halloween 2, those were all Universal releases. And a lot of the, some of the, although Halloween 2 is an indie, basically. I think it was more of an indie film. I mean, it had Universal money and stuff, but the same crew that had worked on the earlier Halloweens and the Escape from New York and some of the other John Carpenter, Nick Castle things. You forgot about Nick, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. And he came back for 2018's Halloween.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is fantastic.
Yep. I mean, Nick actually told that story of that's why I got an audition for Last Starfighter. Was he was looking at the some of the cutting of Halloween 2, and he's like, hey, that guy's about the right age. We're looking for a guy for my new Starfighter movie. So I had no idea that was a bridge to that.
One thing I was wondering was, what else was filming while you were doing Last Starfighter? What was like close by that you could walk over and be like, "Hey, Superman," or whatever,
Let's see. I can't remember. It was we shot in Culver City at the old MGM lot. And it was the only, I think our last day was the last day of Little House on the Prairie. And I remember I was having lunch with Melissa and Rob, and they burned the thing down. I think they burned the house down, the Little House on the Prairie. So that was the day of, when they do that, they have the big deal where they set fire to the thing, and it's all on a soundstage, so it's fine. But it's kind of an event when they burn something down. That's all I remember them shooting concurrently with Last Starfighter.
Is there a lot of what type of conventions do you hit? Because I don't remember you ever coming to New England unless you have been to New England, and I might have missed it. But do you before 2020? Did you go to a lot of science fiction conventions or fan conventions?
I went to mostly horror conventions because Jaws and Halloween and everything are more horror conventions are sort of a bigger deal for me, I guess. I don't know why, but my rep is a big Halloween guy, and so Starfighter sort of helps and stuff. But I've gone to several of them, but they're mostly horror based. Like Chiller out in Jersey, and I don't know, Cherry Hill that's in Jersey also.
Yeah, I think that's probably the closest you've come.
Yeah, I've always wanted. I love Massachusetts, so I would go there in a second, But it's always been. I go back sometimes to the same places. Like I've been to Jersey probably 6-7 times, and England. I go to England sometimes, and Indianapolis. I was there a couple times, and.
We have a major event here in Boston that happens every year, and I don't know what's going to happen in 2021 because the last time it did happen this year was just before the world went to hell, and it's called the Boston Science Fiction Film Festival. It's been going on for 44 years, if you can believe that. And they show a lot of independent sci-fi shorts. They do show some horror stuff, but they do a 24-hour block of science fiction films from Sunday at noon to Monday at noon, usually a President's Day weekend, so most people have President's Day off. And it's phenomenal. Yeah. And if they ever showed Last Starfighter, that would definitely be something for you to come down and meet. It's this really old, ancient theater, which I hope is still going to be running despite, everything that's been happening or whatever. And I haven't seen a lot of posts about what they're doing for 2021, if they're going to push it back yet or not. But that would be an amazing event to have you out for. That's not like horror related, if you wanted to do something, sci-fi related.
All right. Yeah, sure. When they start doing that again, Like I said, I love going to Massachusetts. It's one of my favorite places. So.
That would be the perfect thing. And the people who run it probably would absolutely love to have you here. I have a cool surprise for you, by the way, for you coming on tonight. I do. I'm going to be. I'm going to see if I can add the person into the call now. It's a Christmas gift to you. Christmas gift to everyone listening. I'm
on pins and needles here.
You are. All right.
I wasn't told about this.
No. You were never supposed to be told about this.
Is this just audio or is it video as well?
It's just audio, but yes.
Oh, just audio.
Yes, Lance. This is I invited Catherine to join us.
Hi, Kath.
Hello.
Oh my God. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Everybody here has a little bit of a cold, but
You're kidding.
Jack is rallying better than the rest of us.
Thank you so much for coming on with us, Catherine. This was so last minute, too.
I know. No,
oh my God.
I'll do anything with Lance.
When was the last time you two saw each other?
Oh, my God.
Well, pre-COVID.
I think it was probably in California.
I guess so. Or Tennessee. It wouldn't have been the convention, would it?
Yeah, Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee.
Knoxville, Tennessee.
That was a little over a year, about a year and a half ago, probably.
Yeah, it's been a while, which is unusual for us. We usually see each other. I go out to LA and spend a couple of months, and I always they give me my little charity dinner at least once a week or so.
Oh my God, no charity dinner. No, it's an event, Kath. We do it up.
It is an event. I love it. I get fed a decent meal. When I'm there by myself, I'm like, I buy a bag of nuts or something.
Yeah.
And then,
well,
when they invite me over, I'm like, oh, food.
The real reason I brought you both together for this call is I wanted to go over I thought it was important after rewatching the movie twice in a row now for couples therapy, because we need to talk about Alex's cheating on himself with himself and his problems with Maggie's strange sexual urges.
Wow. We're going into a deep dive here.
Real deep dive.
Very deep dive. Maggie, you have some things you want to say to Alex now, and vice versa. And by the way, I've always been really curious. Did the both times that you got to slap him in the face, was that a real slap?
I think so.
Probably semi-real. You know, you can do a slap where you don't really hurt the person that much, but you might remember that better than me, Lance.
I think there was some contact because I think it was necessary to not make it look fake.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think there was definitely some contact. I just don't. But you know, of course, we try to sell it the most we can.
Right, and you grab your chin too after she slaps you after the sexual urges comment. You're like, oh.
Yes.
Well, you know, I don't want it to be too, movie-like. I gotta have some reality in there. You know, I gotta give him something to react to. It's called method acting.
There you go. I've been slapped by the best of them.
That's right, baby.
Was it very confusing to remember that you're cheating on yourself with yourself and having to play the two different roles of like, okay, no, this role I'm normal me and this role I'm robot me?
Me, I just the beta unit was basically very easy to play because he was a person he was a robot who just did whatever. He just sort of didn't think about anything. He was somewhat mindless. I mean, he just sort of did the best he could with his limited brain function. So he just kind of like, okay, this is what we do now. Okay, you know, kind of.
He was still simmering a bit, you know, still cooking. And apparently I was fooling around with a couple of different men and didn't even realize it.
There you go.
I enjoyed it.
What was the guy with the pickup truck's name? Old Jack Burton? What is that?
Jack.
Well, Jack, I wasn't fooling around with him. Come on.
No.
I was fooling around with a robot and a real Jack. I was like a semi-swinger.
There you go.
And I didn't know it.
That's the what is that movie about the robot Ex Machina sort of?
Oh yeah.
Oh
sort of
yeah.
an Ex Machina version.
Oh my God, that movie is fantastic. I guess they're doing a prequel or a sequel or something like that.
Yeah, that was a brilliant movie.
You'd think the hardware would have been a getaway. You know, the sort of the hardware rubbing up against the stomach there might have been a bit of a giveaway. Wait, what are those bolts?
You know, I was young and naive.
When you know, people in a lot of movies that have a reaction to something that's gross, sometimes it's genuine. You think about in the movie Alien, nobody knew the alien was going to burst through, John Hurt's chest or whatever and shocked everybody. You know, the audience have a big reaction when you see Centauri with the alien face. I was a child, screamed like hell, and to this day, I still can't watch Beta's morphing face, which is disgustingly horrible. Even at 40 years old, still scares the crap out of me. Catherine, did you have a reaction when his guts spewed out at you and you're like, see?
Well, yeah, I guess I had a reaction. I mean, as the character, it was sort of shocking, obviously, but as an actor, it was kind of cool more than anything how they figured that all out, you know, and got it to explode and just sort of squirt out in that very specific way. It was funny, but in character, of course, it's like, what the hell is going on? Oh, and it was kind of disgusting.
Were you aware that was going to happen? That his guts were going to squirt out at you?
I think we probably rehearsed. I think I had an idea.
Okay.
I may not have known exactly how it was going to happen. I don't remember exactly if we had to do it once or twice to make sure it worked properly. Do you remember, Lance?
No, those kind of things were low tech, you know. Some guy with a hose, you know, they'd have like get some, you know, antifreeze or something and load up the hose, and that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah.
You know, that's sort of like that antifreeze looking stuff, or maybe they lit it in a particular way so it looks a little more, you know, phosphorescent or something. But that's what I remember. Is just there was the props guy off, you know, just squeezing it.
It is really all that stuff. Yeah, I don't know what it's like now, but in those days, definitely low tech. And then they add that little sound effect in there afterwards, or whatever else.
I can't remember. Was that like a blue screen or green screen thing, or was that an actual apparatus, a little thing underneath my shirt?
Yeah, from what I recall, it was absolutely like a squib or something that they set up, a special kind of squib, and I'm sure some guy was, they had the little tube hidden, and the most difficult part about that is sort of coordinating the explosion and then the squirt or whatever it was. That, pretty low tech, I think. I mean, especially comparatively speaking.
What they can do now.
It's you guys were on not the same show, but Lance, you were on Life Goes On. That was a soap opera, right? And Catherine, you were on a soap opera at a different time. But you guys were never on a soap opera or any other movie together other than The Last Starfighter, correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
And isn't it funny that Lance, your movie, Lance and Catherine, your movie is centered around, of course, a video game. And I don't know if you voiced any video game characters, Lance, but Catherine, you were in Red Dead Redemption 2 years ago.
I was. That was a wild experience. It was so bizarre. So first of all, the audition itself is they just want you to say a few things to see what your voice is like. And then they have you like move around the room because what do they call it? It's not stop action, but
motion caption.
Thank you. Motion caption. You wear this skin-tight leotard with these pom-poms attached to you all over the place.
Yep.
And then there's a very specific way of moving. You can't just stand there. You can't stop. You have to, even when you're not moving, you have to move.
Right.
And then they have a skeleton of a set, which is like a bar. I think I had to go through swinging doors of a bar, which were just like, just barely there. Barely there kind of a thing. It was really bizarre. They have cameras just 360 degrees around you, just shooting every single angle. Really weird. Just weird.
Yeah. One of the best stories I've ever heard about that whole motion capture thing is, do you guys know who Kane Hodder is?
No.
Kane Hodder played Jason Voorhees in 4 of the Friday the 13th films. And he was a stuntman for a long time as well. And he came back to play came back to play all the versions of Jason that you could play in a video game version of Friday the 13th. And to see the motion caption of him wearing the motion caption suit with the camera, the ping pong balls like Catherine described, and him going through the kills and everything like that is the most hilarious thing to watch. Especially when they swap out the actress that he's supposed to kill with like a tackling dummy for him to get rough with. It's so funny because you're just like, yeah, this is Jason. This guy in his pushing into his 60s is playing Jason Voorhees.
It's hilarious. It's really weird. I mean, I felt completely out of my element because there's not a lot of traditional acting involved either. It's really very, very strange. But the actors that do these cartoons, whatever, video games, they work for years and years and years. I mean, it's a great job to have, and they're paid pretty well. And then, I mean, even when we were there, they keep these things super secretive. And you couldn't even go outside to have a cigarette or something because they were afraid that drones were flying over to try to get an idea of the characters or what it might be like. You sort of you're driven into Fort Knox and you're not allowed to leave until the end of the day. And, you've got to sign an NDA and all this other bizarre stuff. But the producers, I mean, I think it's a great steady job for an actor because you get paid and whatnot. But those producers, man, and writers, they make a kablillion dollars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I wasn't aware of this.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I knew about it. I mean, I know some people that do motion capture and stuff. But I didn't know that it was it's a good job. It's certainly a huge business. So
it's a huge business. And if you're a regular character, you could be in and it takes them to shoot a game, a specific game, I think takes a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And if you're a regular character, you could be employed, depends on how many new games they come out with. You could be employed for years and years and years. I mean, I don't know how satisfying it is as an actor.
Well, Better than a kick in the teeth.
Yeah, I mean, hey, medical, man. That's always my motivation, is just trying to get medical.
I'll tell you
Well, that's
mine.
cool.
I'll tell you mine real quick, and then you guys can tell me yours. Do you have a favorite? What is your favorite part of the film that you're both known together working for? Mine is when Alex is leaving and Maggie is told, write me once in a while by her grandmother, and runs back in Alex's arms or whatever. The music hits that really great, like, da, 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 sing as she goes running into arms. That scene, especially now watching it on that gorgeous looking Blu-ray from Arrow, it still brings a tear to my eye. Just like, yeah, he gets the girl. He gets his iguana friend co-pilot and the girl.
Isn't this Dr. Chris Radio a horror?
Yes.
You're so sentimental for a horror guy.
I know. Okay, we'll get into Halloween. So, when you slipped on the blood in Halloween 2, how was that? And in Night of the Comet, how was it living into the apocalypse, which you're living in right now? Then we'll get to that question. But go ahead with Last Starfighter first.
Well, I know mine. My favorite, the whole scene and setup, right after he gets shot in the belly and it squirts out that junk. I guess you go to chase the guy who shot you, right? And you jump in the truck, and I'm saying, no, wait, I've got to come with you. I've got to find out what's going on, and all that stuff. And then I just love that action-packed stuff. So, he sees the pod that's about to take off, and he's got to, ram it or whatever. And I leap out of the truck, and it's also very dramatic. And there's this giant explosion in the background, and it zooms in on me with the wind blowing through my hair. And I look up into the sky. It's very Shakespearean, I feel. I love you, Alex Rogan. That is my favorite part.
You sell that so well.
No, you're right. That's a good scene. I mean, that's from the getting into the truck and you insisting on going in the truck and all that dialogue. We just really banged through it, and I thought the rhythm of it was really good, and it was really fun, and
that was absolutely my favorite part, because I love doing I like high energy things anyway, and that was fun. And you're like jump, and I'm like, what? But humor in there, it was good.
You're right. That is good. I don't want to be unoriginal, but I like that scene too.
There you go.
I will come up. I'll come up with another one, but it always brings a smile to my face.
On the commentary with your son Jackson, Lance, you even mentioned that whole scene where she looks up and she really sells it when she says, "I love you, Alex Rogan," as just like I totally get it. There is crap happening on Earth right now that I just don't know what's going on.
But I did love Alex Rogan.
Well, I loved you too.
You guys sold that. You guys really sold that you had chemistry. That's amazing how well your chemistry worked together. The tender moment when you kiss her and the mom watches, and when she's got the bad news about the school, which is really kind of sucks. It's like, oh, he's got the girl, but unfortunately he's got to go to state school.
Yeah.
Did we ever find out what happened to Maggie's parents? Why was Maggie living with Grandma?
Oh.
And where is your dad? By the way, Lance, where's your dad? Because it's mentioned, these are my folks, but we don't see Dad.
Originally, yes, actually, we do. Originally, the line was, "And here's my dad before he died." That's what it was. And apparently, the reason that, my father had died early.
That was King Baggett.
That was King, yeah. But the DP, very handsome guy, King. Instead, but they cut that line because they thought maybe that was going to be, they didn't think it was necessary, or it was too everybody's got to have a dead parent for a science fiction, whatever,
or a Pixar, or like a Pixar cartoon.
Yeah,
there's a dead parent. I mean, every single one of them, it's usually a single mom.
At some point, they just said, no, let's not do that. Let's just not mention that. So then they say, here's me and my folks and Lewis and Maggie. And then they just took a picture of King as the dad, and Barbara was the mom, and then there's Lewis and Maggie, and that he was just my dad. I just didn't. But so in the official release, I actually do have a living parent at age 18 or whatever I was. So no, I'm just saying that they went on the sort of formula of the standard lost a parent kind of thing that Pixar and Disney and everybody does. But they really didn't go through with it. So that's why they took that picture. And you'll notice King is actually in the picture. If you watch the movie, there is when they cut to that picture, there is that guy, and it's King.
It's King Baggett.
Yeah.
And Catherine, did you ever find out what happened to your parents? Were they abducted by aliens? They how about this? How about this for a great prequel? They were the original beaters of the Starfighter arcade game, taken by Centauri, and they died in space. And you never know the truth.
Gosh, that's grim. I was going to go with I was a hobo and I just kind of moved in with Grandma.
Are you like? Is it like that episode of The Simpsons where Principal Skinner takes over for the guy who died in Vietnam? Grandma's just like, oh, it's my daughter, you're back, and you're like, right, yeah, that's me, it's Maggie, but I'm actually Tracy.
That works for me. I don't know. No, I never really. I probably I should have thought about it myself. Since it was odd that I'm living with my granny, but I never really thought about it. I just was like, yeah, that's what it is.
You both have your fair share of horror movies, of course. We're a radio of horror. Catherine came on 8 years ago, right after she was at the Rhode Island Comic-Con for a stint, which was fantastic to meet you at. Do you guys ever go to? I know Lance answered this, but Catherine, do you go to a lot of regular conventions besides like the Comic-Con? Do you ever go to horror cons for, Night of the Comet or anything?
Yeah, I do conventions. Frankly, something's rubbing up against your microphone.
Lance, I think that's you.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was adjusting because I'm plugged into the wall here.
Oh, gotcha.
It's like a 3-foot cord. So.
Because this is a really important question to answer, and I don't to get.
No roughly.
I was gonna say, I do. Lance probably does more conventions than I do because he's involved with more horror movies and Jaws and all that. But I do probably 2 or 3 a year, and I don't really pay attention to what category they are, if they're Comic-Cons or horror cons or, I don't know, UK cons and Tennessee cons. But I have a promoter who suggests them, and I'm like, sure, let's do it. And it's particularly fun when Lance and I can do it together. Or also, if it's Night of the Comet, that it's Kelly Maroney and I. It's just so much more fun to have somebody there that that you can kind of hang out with at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to do, and it's also really fun to just meet the people that you don't meet. It's Kathy and I have both done theater, and when you do theater, you do plays, and people come backstage and they talk to you, and when you do movies, it doesn't happen. You never see the people that actually you never see the audience. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like doing cons is kind of like seeing the audience.
Is there ever...
And with a movie like The Last Starfighter, you don't really know the impact it's had on the audience because because it's not a blockbuster, giant movie. Yeah. I think in those cases you go, oh, that's good. So lots of people are seeing it. With something like The Last Starfighter or Night of the Comet, it's like, for me anyway, it was like 20 years after the fact or even longer, that I realized it had a following and a pretty significant fan base. And so coming from that place, it's like amazing to meet the fans and the people and hearing their stories about, how they grew up with this movie and they watched it all the time and on VHS, and so it's kind of bizarre, but it adds that added element of, I don't know, gratitude. It's like, wow, this is so cool that we did this little tiny movie and then moved on, and didn't really hear much about it for 25 years, and all of a sudden it's significant on some level. So yeah, it's really cool.
I think Lance, I don't think you have any Christmas movies to your credit, correct?
Besides Jaws: The Revenge.
Oh, that's right. It did take place at Christmas time. I totally forgot about that. That was a good. You definitely got a you definitely got. I'm trying to think of a good Jaws joke. Short end of the stick. No. What's the good Jaws joke? All right, I'll come back. I'll come back to you with a good Jaws joke. But Catherine, you've got quite a few Christmas movies. Do you enjoy making them? Do you get like, good God, Christmas again? Do you are there ones that you wish you hadn't done, or ones you wish you had done?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask, but I've done several. Yeah, I did one called A Nutcracker Christmas, which I really love doing because I used to be a dancer, and they involved what I guess it's the Canadian National Ballet.
Oh, wow.
And so I got to, when I wasn't working, I would go and watch them rehearse, and I just felt like I was home again. It was wonderful. And just watching them in general was just wonderful. So that element really attracted me to that Christmas movie. I did one called A Rock and Roll Christmas. And one of the reasons I wanted to do that was because I got to be rather elderly rock and roll singer, but it was all, very Christmassy. It's a story of a mother-daughter singing duo who had split up years ago and hadn't really even spoken to each other, and they were kind of tricked to performing together at this concert, and we end up putting out this beautiful Christmas album and making amends. So yeah, but one of the first movies I did after taking a little bit of an intentional break, I would say, was what was that called?
Christmas.
A Christmas Snow. That's right.
Yes.
A Christmas Snow, which so that was just sort of a way of me getting back into the work itself, which was good. And then that became a play in Branson, Missouri, which was bizarre, but and also a musical partly musical, sort of half musical, half straight play. So I got a lot of mileage out of that one, but that's still floating around somewhere. So yeah, frankly though, I don't sit down every Christmas and watch a bunch of Christmas movies. That's not my interest place of interest.
Do you guys have family traditions that you have to do every year for this time of year? Either one of you, Lance and Catherine?
Well, last night we did, we had to watch, we tend to watch the old school ones, the old Grinch and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and, Charlie Brown and stuff. I don't really all due respect to remakes of all this stuff, but I don't really like any redos or anything like that. I like the original ones from the 50s.
Oh, absolutely. Like my favorite is A Christmas Carol with Alistair Sims. Is that?
Oh yeah. Alistair Sims. Yep.
I just found on Prime a Christmas Carol read by Vincent Price.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, this is awesome. Vincent Price reading A Christmas Carol? Absolutely. It's in it's on Prime, so they've cleaned it up as much as they can, but it is this god-awful greenish yellow. Looks like the color of the Game Boy, if you know the Game Boy handheld device or whatever. View the entire movie of the actors and then cutting back to Price reading the Christmas Carol.
I actually do that. I actually read the Christmas Carol for my family every day. I mean, every year.
Every day.
Tonight we're going to start.
That would get old.
It's like, hey guys, do you want to watch Jaws: The Revenge again and see how Dad dies?
Actually, Jack has never seen Halloween 2 or Jaws: The Revenge.
Really?
No.
Wow.
At one time he kind of wanted to see it, and now I'm like, hey Jack, you want to see it? He's like,
Catherine,
are very humbling. As an actor, children are just very humbling. They're like, yeah, not so much, Mom. They kind of roll their eyes, It's just like, oh, jeez.
Well, Catherine, has your kid seen anything you've done, like Night of the Comet or Weekend at Bernie's, or is it stuff they're like, oh, Mom, we don't want to. We're living in the apocalypse right now. We don't need to watch you pretending to live in the apocalypse, or we don't want to watch you run around in a bikini for the entire movie, or whatever.
Did I ever run around in a bikini?
Well, Weekend at Bernie's, you were in a bikini.
Which one?
Weekend at Bernie's?
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I was mostly covered up then.
Okay.
So the only time that I know of that my kids have watched movies was they were born very close to each other in terms of days. I mean, they're 3 years apart, but so my son was born on the 29th and my daughter was born on the 27th. And they must have been maybe 10 or 11, somewhere in there. They had a huge sleepover party at our place. And at that time, we had this big room that they just laid out their sleeping bags and everything right on the floor on a big TV screen. And they sat and watched Night of the Comet, which it was so funny. They were just screaming away. They watched The Last Starfighter, and I think they watched Mischief, another one. And then my son, a couple of days later, was his birthday. He did the same.
Oh.
But frankly, I think that's the last time they've ever watched the movies and ever cared to. They're so not curious about anything. Like these Christmas movies I mentioned, they've never seen any of these things. They don't know. They never ask me. They never look for anything. Every once in a while, Lance, Dick will like save something on TV so if the kids come over, we could show it to them. And I'm like,
Right.
what do you think the chances of them wanting to sit through one of my TV movies, while they're here? They'd rather watch Jeopardy.
Yeah. I know that is true. I actually I showed Jack this one movie that nobody saw, called The Wizard of Loneliness, but it was a VHS copy, and it kept dying. And I think it's a really beautiful movie, but I kept having to like take it out and fix it every 2 or 3 minutes and stuff, and it was really kind of a drag. And then I did this other movie called The Roommate. These are like independent movies that Jack saw, but my mainstream horror things, nope.
Is he just not a horror fan?
He really isn't. He's a science fiction guy. He's a real science fiction fan.
I was going to say, what was the first movie you mentioned that you thought was really lovely? Is there any way to find it? What's it called?
Yeah, it actually streams. It's on Prime, I think. Amazon Prime. It's called The Wizard of Loneliness.
The Wizard of Loneliness.
Yeah, I shot it in
88.
Vermont, actually.
Yeah.
I shot it in Bristol and Middlebury.
After his mother dies and father goes to fight in World War II, a young boy moves in with his aunt and uncle who live in the countryside. Lovely and unhappy, he starts believing he has superpowers. Then a dead man shows up. So it's a horror movie and the precursor to anything Marvel's been making lately.
Right. No. It's actually based on a book by John Nichols.
Actually, what's funny is that you have Dylan Baker in it, and he was Dr. Kirk Connors in the Spider-Man films.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And Leah Thompson's in it from Back to the Future. It was a good cast.
Yep. Oh, yeah, it's great. It's great. Lucas Haas, Leah, Dylan, John Randolph, a lot of people, some great people. Kenny Jenkins, I think, is in it, and that's good. It's a pretty good movie. I liked it. I enjoyed making it and stuff. It's very beautiful. It's World War II era. I get to ride this really cool 1938 red Rudd Whitworth motorcycle, and it's really, I just loved it. But not many people saw it. It was out for 2 weeks.
Gotcha. Before we let you guys go, both of you go, is there a film that you've got coming out soon that you want to plug? I know you got Tracers. You got Traces, Lance.
Pardon?
Traces?
Oh yeah, these are all little. That was. I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't even know when it came out. I was called in.
It says next year.
Really?
Yeah.
Finally, they're gonna finally release it. No, I just play it's a very, very small part. They called me in to play the greatest session guitar player in the world, and because the casting director knew me and she knew I'd play guitar, so I went in and auditioned and stuff, and they didn't cast me, but instead they cast Keb Mo, right? Not a bad guitar player, right? So instead they cast Keb Mo, and then they needed a drummer, and so they go, Lance, can you play drums? I'm like, well, I'm okay. I can kind of play drums. Okay, you're hired. So in this movie, I'm the drummer in the greatest session band ever. And we're a bunch of session musicians, This is it's a scene where this guy goes, let me show you where the real musicians are, and then you go in and I said no. It was a little embarrassing because I'm not really a great drummer.
Gotcha. And then Catherine, you got another Christmas movie coming up, Deck the Heart. With Robert Picardo from Star Trek and The Howling. That's awesome.
I know. Yeah, we shot on the same day, so I got to say hi to him. Yeah, that's so far. They don't know when it's going to be released in the States. It's released overseas somewhere. There's a few things that have not been released. But yeah, with this whole pandemic thing, it's kind of hard to get a job.
Yeah.
So this was obviously pre-pandemic when we shot that one.
What you guys need to do is do it like the short film that's on Shudder that's been everyone's talking about. You shoot it in quarantine through like Zoom camming and stuff like that, or splice footage together of each of you doing something, giving lines, and then make a movie that way.
Yeah, that would work.
There you go.
That would work.
There you go. We can do it on our phones.
That's exactly what happened. That's the movie that's on Shudder. This horror movie on Shudder blew up because they filmed it in quarantine in like a month. And I filmed a movie a few months ago. I did all the scenes at the radio station, and I had people film themselves calling into the station, being a bunch of like arrogant a-holes, like people calling in with weird requests or sad stories to talk about on the radio and stuff like that.
What would it be called that they're talking about?
Oh, I think it's called The Host on Shudder because it's the
right.
whole. Yeah, I think
I know the writer producer.
Yeah,
and it's on Shudder. That's good.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Yeah,
I got to have a little preview of it. It's fantastic. It's about a group of friends who do a séance on Zoom basically, and it sounds iffy, but oh my God, this Jed Shepard is his name, is the writer.
Yep.
He's brilliant. If you get a chance to see Host, watch it. I couldn't watch it by myself straight through because I got too scared. I had to get my husband to hold me.
Well,
so wait, that's all it is. It's just Zoom, period. That's it.
Yeah. It was brilliant.
Fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. Lance, check it out. I know you're not a big horror fan, Lance, but definitely, maybe check it out.
So wait, Kathy, didn't you direct something? I saw something on Facebook. Am I making this up?
No, you're not making it up. I directed a short, but a long time ago. It was just sort of kind of something the director from A Christmas Snow offered to help me do because he knew I wanted to direct. So figured out I wrote a script. We figured it out together. We just shot it over a weekend. So it was just one of those, just kind of something to, dip my toe into, see how I felt. But it was one of the most wonderful experiences. But I have been working on a show with another writer and a producer that actually has been optioned by a company in Canada. So we've been, working closely with them, and hopefully when this pandemic is over, that might get picked up, and I'm to direct it and star in it.
Wow, that's awesome.
We'll see what happens with that. And they'll shoot it in Canada.
Cool.
Very nice. Right on.
Well, yeah. I hope you both have a excellent holiday and Happy New Year and Merry Christmas, and hopefully 2021 brings you both, great things to come, and you fans can hopefully meet you at conventions again when those, happen again.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice. Great. It's been a long break. It's getting a little claustrophobic.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I again, thank you so much for both coming on the show. Lance, thank you so much for doing this. Catherine, thank you for joining us as well. It was great talking to you again. It's been a few years since you came on my show. You came on like 8 years ago, again, right after you were at Rhode Island Comic Con.
Okay. Yeah.
But again, thank you both so much. I really do appreciate it.
Sure enough.
It was fun. Thank you.
Merry Christmas to you, Chris.
Thank you. Very Merry Christmas to both of you.